Hey y'all, so this week's video was not supposed to be about this, but it happened, so I'm just gonna go ahead and talk about it and get it out of the way. So, about 2 weeks ago, I had the worst week of my fish keeping life. I actually already made a video for it, but the audio was not cooperating, so I'm now re-videoing myself talking about it. About 2 weeks ago, I got up to go to class, and as usual, I got up, I checked all the fish, I fed everybody, and so on. So, I got to the butterfly tank and turned the light on, and I noticed that Beauty was missing. And I was like, she has to be in here, There's nowhere else that she can go. So I started looking, and I found her stuck in the cave ornament. And it was so weird because she has never tried to go through the cave or anything. She goes around it and behind it, but she's never went through it. So I thought that was really odd, especially because half the cave has a really big opening, and so she could easily go through it, but she decided to go through like 2-inch spot that is super tight, and I'm like, out of all the things, but she is blind, so okay. So I was a little frantic, and I got the top off the aquarium. I stuck my entire arm in the aquarium to free her. I thought that she was dead because she was honestly completely motionless and totally scared me. I got her loose. She started swimming around. She's like, hey, I want my breakfast. I'm hungry. And I'm like, seriously? You just scared me that bad? But I mean, it was a good thing. Like, I was happy that she was okay. So, I fed her as usual. I watched her for a little bit. She was okay. She was swimming normally. So, I didn't have really any concerns about her. Got ready. I was running late to class because I was so focused on the fish. So, I got ready really fast. I was getting my backpack and everything, and my laptop, and I went back through the aquariums, and I was turning off the lights, which is usually what I do. And so I went to turn off their tank light, and Spike was swimming crazy around the tank. I mean, like, totally crazy. And I'm like, what is your problem? And I saw, of course, Spike is my black moor, so I saw this big white rock in his mouth. And I'm like, you did not get that stuck in your mouth. But he did, and he was like having a complete breakdown. So there I go, took off the top, stuck my hand in there, relatively easily caught him. Shockingly, I was able to catch him pretty fast. He allowed me to hold him and work in his mouth, which was odd because, usually they're fighting you and, fish, they flop around, and he didn't do that. He let me. And so, thankfully, I was able to get it out. And I released him, and he was fine. And y'all, I have had gravel for 18 years. I have never had a fish get gravel stuck in their mouth. But of course, it would happen to me on this day. So, but anyway, he was fine. So that was fine. I hurried out the door, went to class, came home, and I was noticing JoJo. And I had been watching JoJo very closely for about a week prior to this, because she just wasn't acting herself. She was a little bit, in breeding mode, and she was carrying eggs. She released some eggs. Spike was chasing her, so she released the eggs, and she went back to normal. That day when I got home, I was looking at her, and she was hiding, and that's very much unusual for a JoJo. That's just not what she does. So I was like, okay. So, I tapped on the glass, I made some noise, and she wouldn't come out. And, that's very unusual for her. She always comes to me. And And so I ended up sticking my arm back in an aquarium and I caught her and I started looking at her and I noticed that she was very swollen. And it wasn't an egg type of swelling. And I became very alarmed. I took a picture, put it on my Instagram to see if anybody could tell if her scales were lifted. Because the first thing that I thought of was dropsy, and no fish keeper wants to hear that their fish has dropsy. But I knew if her scales were lifted, that was generally is the last sign of dropsy, and it is usually fatal. So I was looking and I really couldn't make heads or tails of it. I knew that she wasn't eating like she used to. At this point, she wasn't eating at all. And she was bottom sitting, she was hiding, and she was swollen. And when I got her out, I noticed that her eyes were bulging, and I understand that she's a butterfly telescope, and telescope eyes are what they are. But it was more than usual, and so I panicked a little bit. And some people on my Instagram they were replying, and they're like, I can't really tell. It's hard to tell from the picture. And then I got a response from Cheyenne Goldfish, and they are actually where I purchased my butterfly telescopes back in May. And they reached out to me and they were asking her other symptoms, and I sent them more pictures of her. And they really thought that I was dealing with bacterial dropsy, from what it looked like. But I had caught it early enough that she still had a fighting chance, and that's what I wanted to hear. I wanted to hear that she still had a chance, but I didn't want to hear that she had dropsy. So immediately I pulled out my 30-gallon storage tub and filled it up, put a sponge filter in it, hooked up my heater, and I put her in. And I watched her like a hawk. She just wasn't interactive. And JoJo is very diva-like. Like, if you were here and you got to see her, she's just like that. She's like Legally Blonde, if you've ever seen that movie. That's like her personality to a T. She's hilarious. Anytime I have my camera out, she wants to come out and be in front of the camera. She loves it when I take pictures. She is so funny, but she wasn't at all like that. So I was talking to King Koi, and they're like, for bacterial dropsy, you're going to need Canaplex. That's usually a pretty good start. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to see what I can do. So I called both my local pet stores, and of course they don't have it because it's Kentucky and we have nothing that I need generally. When it comes to fish keeping, we generally have nothing that I need, and it drives me insane. But anyway, so I told King Koi that I couldn't get it because nobody within 100 miles of me had it. And they're like, well, have you tried Amazon? And I was like, I just got Amazon Prime. So I looked and I found a seller that was willing to ship me Canaplex overnight. So I was like, okay, it's Friday at this point, and I'm going to get it Saturday. That's good enough for me. And much quicker than I expected. So, and it just cost me like $8 to get it here. Like, I was shocked. Like, I was expecting it to be like $30 or $40 overnight expense, and it was very cheap with Amazon Prime. But that was the good thing. So, I stayed with her overnight. I would not leave her because I guess the nurse in me just came out, and I knew that if she did end up passing, that I wanted to be with her. And she did fine overnight. She was fine. She didn't change much, but, she was at least still living and swimming at that point. I got Canaplex the next morning, and I changed the water in her quarantine. I added the Canaplex, and I added Epsom salt. She didn't change that day at all. She still wasn't really wanting to eat. I didn't see any waste product. And I was getting very concerned that maybe I caught it too late. And I kept taking pictures and I kept picking her up. I'm like, Is there lifted scales? I don't see any, but maybe I'm not accustomed to, knowing what they look like, because I've never had a fish with dropsy. This was completely new to me, and I was scared. But Sunday came, and I came to check on her, and she was swimming about the quarantine tank, and she actually came to the surface like she was waiting for me to feed her, and I'm like, you're active? Okay. So, I took a look at her and noticed that the swelling had gone down, and that was a big relief to me. I was like, well, at least something is happening. Something is happening. So, I watched her, I fed her just a little bit just to see if she would take it, and she did, and she was hungry. And I'm like, okay, that's another good sign. Right after I fed her, she was producing waste again, and I'm like, okay, so there's not complete organ failure, so it's not got to that point yet. I have caught it early enough. And so by Monday, it was time for her second round Canaplex and more Epsom salt that, I had to replace after the water change. And she was doing so much better. And I went down even more. And, by Wednesday of that week, she was awesome. And I'm like, thank God, because I was so nervous. I feel sorry for any fish keeper that has had a fish that has developed dropsy, and it's, a severe dropsy. I feel so sorry for them, because I felt so helpless with her, even though she wasn't, to that point. But I was still like, she's suffering, there's something wrong, she's counting on me, I have to help her. And thankfully I was able to do that, and she is okay. She made it, and she's actually now back in her tank with her buddies, and she's doing fine. So that was a good outcome. I was very nervous. JoJo was picked out by my grandmother, and my grandmother loves JoJo. I do not know why. They just click. I don't understand, but she always asks me about JoJo, always, and she always wants to see JoJo, and she wants me to send her a video and show her, and but I was like, when I had to tell her that JoJo was sick, and I wasn't sure that I could fix her, I know it broke her heart, and it made me want her to live that much more. So thankfully she did make it, and my grandmother has got to see her, and they just have a bond. I don't even understand it, but they do, and she lived, so that was a good outcome. Then another thing happened. Not even done with the story yet. Three occurrences, and 3 things have happened in this week, and I'm not even done. There's a 4th one. Last week, I was getting ready for an exam. I had just finished feeding all of them, checking all of them, so, I started studying, and I heard my dad talking to my mom, and then he hollered at me, and he's like, Cheyenne, you need to come in here and check Josephine, and I'm like, I just checked on her, like, I just fed them, they're fine. And he's like, no, you need to come in here. And so I panicked a little bit, and I went into the living room, and I saw her, and she was completely belly up, motionless at the top of the water. And I'm like, what happened in that 5 minutes that I was gone? And I hurried over to the tank, and she just flipped herself over and started swimming again. And I'm like I don't understand. So I sat down in front of the aquarium, and I watched her for about 15 minutes, and she kept doing it. And I started to notice that she would only do it when night was coming toward her. It was almost like she was playing dead. And I just had a hunch. So I went back out to the dollar store to get another 30-gallon storage tub, because at that time JoJo was still getting treated. So I had to get another one, I had to prep it, get it filled up, sponge filter and all, and then I moved her and I put her in. And she did not do it anymore. She did it one time. When I first put her in there, she kind of went up on her side. She didn't like completely turn over, but she was on her side. And then once she realized that she was the only fish in there, she quit. And I can't even believe I'm saying it, but I swear it's like she was playing dead. It's the craziest thing. It's like he had finally stressed her so much that she couldn't take it anymore. And I still can't believe it. Like, it was just so weird. Like, I've never seen goldfish do that. But, you know, I call him a big bully because that's what he is. He's just mean. And I ended up having to move Beauty a couple months ago because he was harassing her. And she couldn't fight back because she's blind. So I had to move her, and he's never been aggressive towards Josephine. I mean, he would butt her every now and then. They'd have breeding behavior, but nothing like he has been the past few weeks. And honestly, I should have moved him a long time ago, but I didn't. And I guess Josephine showed me that she didn't want him in there anymore. So I kept her in quarantine for a couple of days and made sure that she was alright. And sure enough, she was fine. I never caught her doing it again. Craziest thing I've ever seen. And so, actually yesterday, I made the decision that Knight was going to leave. And I ended up moving him to the 40-gallon breeder that Malachi and Zelena were in. And I moved Malachi and Zelena to the tank that he was in. So I kind of switched them. And I also had to make a decision on who was going to come with him because I knew that I couldn't just put him by himself. I knew that wouldn't go well. He loves to hit the top of the glass canopy when he's mad. Like, if I don't feed him on time, he'll go hitting that glass. And, you know, if one of the other fish bug him, he'll go hitting that glass. Like, he has such a personality. But I knew that I couldn't move Josephine with him. And I wanted Malachi and Zelena both to go into the other tank because they've always been together and I didn't want to separate them. So it had to be Lucy or Comet. Lucy is a rogue and she's a baby, and usually they just don't get along. Comet, on the other hand, is a young Aranda, and him, you know, he and Knight get along fine. I've never seen Knight be any bit aggressive toward him. So I was like, okay, I'm going to move you. So I moved them both, and I'm actually looking at them right now. They're beside of me. And they're doing fine. I haven't had any trouble whatsoever, and it's the craziest thing I've ever seen. I moved Malachi and Zelena. They're in the tank with Josephine and Lucy, and they do amazing. It is like a school. Like, they don't go anywhere without the other fish. So they follow Josephine around. If Josephine goes somewhere, Malachi, Zelena, and Lucy follow. I mean, it's insane that they acted that way. But they're the best of friends, and I couldn't be more happy with the result. It took me long enough to do it, but, you know, I'm happy with it. As long as, you know, he stops being a butt and treats Comet the way that he's supposed to be treated, then I'm okay with it. So, that has been my eventful week. It was a pain in my butt, and it was so tiring, and I never want to do that again. I had 4 fish incidents within days of each other, some the same day, and I'm so over it. I don't care if you're the best fish keeper in the world, you're gonna have issues at some point. Dropsy is not always fixable, and sometimes you do have to put them down. And a lot of people told me to put her down, but I wasn't doing it because she had a fighting chance, and she proved them all wrong. But, you know, like I said, everybody has issues, and sometimes there's nothing that you can do to have prevented it. King Koi, you know, was very helpful to me, and they assured me that it wasn't my fault. It was probably, you know, her eating her own waste. That's very common to cause bacterial dropsy, which I had caught her doing several times. That's something that goldfish do, apparently. It's disgusting, but they do it. So I felt bad at first, but, you know, as I was able to help her and get her back, you know, I felt better. And some people asked me if I was going to quit fish keeping because all this happened, and the answer is no. These fish, one little bad week, and you know, 18 years, it's not going to stop me. And you know, that's just the way it is. I love the fish, and I enjoy taking care of them. They've helped me with my anxiety, and I'm going to keep them. You know, I dealt with the issues, I fixed it, and they're all happy again. So I don't have any regrets as to how I handled the situation. Everything worked out, and some people were mad that I chose to do what I did, but that's not their fish. So JoJo is still living, and that was my goal, was to get her healthy again and get her acting like JoJo. And Josephine is doing so much better without Night, and that's the way it's going to have to be. But I will insert some videos of them now in their tank. If you follow me on Instagram, you'd have seen JoJo while she was swelled. While she was swollen, I don't think I still have the pictures, but they're on my Instagram if you want to see them. And of Josephine upside down. That's there too. But I'll show you how they're doing now. They're doing really, really well. So I'm very happy. And I'll hush now and let y'all see it. And again, if you have bad times in fish keeping, you know, it's going to happen. It's inevitable. And you just have to push through it. It wasn't a fun thing to go through, but, you know, to see them healthy again, I think it was worth it. And it stressed me, but that's okay. They were way more stressed than I was, so that's okay. But I'll let you see them now, and I will talk to y'all next time.